happy to make a start, Oliver. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, James. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the first of two webinar sessions that are taking place on the future of the Greenhill Centre in Manor Park. My name is Oliver Deed, and I've been asked to act as the independent chair for the event this evening to facilitate things and keep things in order. Before we get started, and if I could have the next slide, I just have a couple of bits of housekeeping to run through this evening. The first is that this meeting is being recorded and that Newham Council will be uploading a recording to the Co-Create platform for individuals that weren't able to make the event this evening. If you do have any questions, and this is designed to be interactive this evening, please use the raise hand function to make a point or ask a question. If you do that, I will bring you onto stage, so to speak, ask you to unmute and then put your question to the project team at the appropriate time. And you can also submit questions by using the Q&A function as well. If you don't want to come onto stage, you might be a bit stage shy, you can ask your question in writing, and we are going to take questions at the end of the presentation. So the agenda this evening, the project team are going to present for around 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll have about 30 minutes to take any questions from participants this evening. So onto the project team itself. This project's being brought forward by the Affordable Homes for Newham team, and this session has been organised to provide residents with the opportunity to view some initial ideas for the site and ask questions of the project team. We're joined this evening by, in no particular order, James Cross, who's a Senior Development Manager at the London Borough of Newham, who's bringing forward the scheme. We've got Harriet Mulcahy and Laura Gaskell from Howard Tompkins, and Mike Luschak from ME Landscape, who are the landscape architects for the project. And lastly, we've also got Kate Matthews from First Base, who are the planning consultants for the project as well. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to James Cross, who is going to kick off the presentation for this evening. James, over to you.
Thanks, Oliver. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend this evening's presentation. It's an important time for Newham Council. It's the first time in a generation that we're building genuinely affordable council homes in Newham, and we've got a target to deliver 1,000 homes on site by next March. The Greenhill site has been selected for redevelopment as part of this, and as I said, it's a really exciting opportunity and to really help those several thousands of people on the council's waiting list in need of urgent and suitable accommodation. As you'll be finding out as we go through the presentation, there are some existing stakeholders on site. We're doing a lot of work with them in the background to ensure that we can re-provide those existing services, and doing a lot of work behind the scenes with other council departments to ensure that re-provision and new homes can be provided all on site in the local vicinity. Onto the next slide, please. So the team is made up of myself, James Cross, Senior Development Manager at Newham Council, Howard Tompkins Architects, ME Landscape Studios. The structural engineers for the project are Graphic Structures, and the team helping us deliver our sustainable and energy sustainable criteria will be Max Fordham. The project's also supported by Project Manager and QS provision by Potter Raper and Associates. Thanks very much.
Thanks, James. So Harriet and I are here from Howard Tompkins Architects. We're based in North London, and we work across a whole range of sectors and types of buildings. One of those includes residential buildings, and we work across providing homes for housing, registered housing providers, local authorities, and also private developers. This project that I'm showing on screen is an example of one of our projects, which is in West London, and it was for Peabody. And this is really here just to show you how we work with the existing character of a local place, using materials like brick to create a new approach to residential developments that fits into the existing character and context of a place. So here you can see this example project has a range of heights across the development, ranging from 4 stories up to 9 stories, using setbacks and different brick textures and tones to do some of those things I just described. So the Greenhill Centre site is located here. It's to the east of Woodgrange Park Overground Station and to the south of Manor Park railway station, which will also be a Crossrail station in the future. The site has a number of bus stops in local reach of it. So, as James mentioned, there is currently a one-storey with some setback two-storey part building on the site with some car parking to the rear or access off Snows Hill Road. And on the next few slides, I'm just going to go through some site analysis we've done of the character of the different streets that this site faces onto. So starting with High Street North, which is to the west of our site. This is perhaps the kind of main artery route that the site faces onto. It's very varied in its built character. You can see some examples of the buildings along High Street North. There's a few locally listed buildings on High Street North, which are quite beautiful in their architectural character and details. Moving on to Church Road, this is has the railway as its opposite frontage to the site. You can see some photographs on the right-hand side of this slide of the frontage on Church Road, which is quite wide and quite open feeling, with some level changes which we're looking at kind of approaching. And then Snows Hill Road, which is to the east of the site, is very residential in its character. There's some four-storey buildings along, predominantly four-storey buildings along Snows Hill Road there. And also just to the north, shown in photograph number 7, is Snows Hill Passage, which runs along the northern boundary of the site. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Harriet to talk through the brief and opportunities.
Hi, so yeah, we're looking at around 80 homes on the site, 100% affordable and 39% family homes. We're looking to achieve a very sustainable scheme with passive house principles. There's going to be reprovision of the gym on site to replace the gym that's there at the moment. And overall, we're looking at a high architectural quality, retaining the existing landscape features and having legible and active frontages around the scheme. Next slide. So there's been many factors to consider. We've done a lot of site analysis, some of the stuff that Laura ran through before. But also we're trying to develop the scheme to have the lowest impact possible on the existing neighbours and looking at the positives to the site. So there's some really lovely existing mature trees which we're looking to keep, and then also looking at the factors which we need to think about to make sure that the houses we deliver are as lovely as possible for the people that live in them. So, you know, noise considerations from the railway and the High Street North Road as well. So we're working with a team of specialist consultants to help us work through the various issues. Next slide. So this is diagrams of how we developed the design. So as I just mentioned, we're looking at retaining the existing mature trees and using that to enhance the proposed landscape that will add to the project. Yeah, there'll be a residential courtyard for residents to use in the centre, protected by the buildings. We're going to have as many active frontages as possible. So doors at ground floor to activate the street frontages. And then you can see there the gym on that High Street North to Church Road junction. The residential entrances, we're looking to have kind of through cores, so the residents in the homes can easily access their garden. Servicing and parking, we're looking to I'll talk about parking a little bit more in a minute, but just 3 accessible spaces to the north of the site, which will hopefully minimise traffic down Snowshill Road. And then the last diagram just shows the orientation and the height, which we've carefully designed to maximise natural light and lower impact on neighbours. Next slide. So yeah, the parking, the development will be car-free in accordance with council policy. New residents will be unable to parking residents on the surrounding streets, and parking permits on the surrounding streets will be reserved for the existing residents. But as I mentioned previously, accessible parking will be provided on site for the accessible dwellings that we'll be providing. Next slide. So this is kind of an initial sketch of our proposal. As I mentioned in the brief, we're looking at around 80 new homes. There's a large number of family homes, which will have a communal garden in the centre. And then we're also looking at kind of a wider improvement of landscaping in the public realm, especially in the area Laura mentioned, which is currently quite a blank facade to a wide unused pavement. Next slide. Here's the kind of initial ground floor sketch. You can kind of see from the blue arrows, they're kind of pedestrian entrances. So we're looking at getting as many front doors on the street as possible, which adds to kind of activity along the street and meeting neighbours. And then there's some more technical things there, like where the refuse stores will be and the cycle stores. And then you can see in the yellow shade, that's where the new gym will be located. And I'll hand over to Mike now to talk through the landscaping proposals. Thank you.
So this is a plan showing sort of the initial approach to the landscape. So as Harriet and Laura mentioned, there's a number of existing trees. There's 4 category B trees that are quite close to Snowshill Passage and 1 along High Street North. And they're being incorporated into the overall landscape. The central courtyard space will provide seating opportunities, sort of grow your own raised planter areas, and also play opportunities as well for younger children. So the central courtyard will have a number of functions within the landscape, and we'll also be incorporating additional tree planting within that space to provide extra planting and to reinforce the existing trees. And then along Church Road, as Harriet mentioned, the wide footpath at the moment is to be broken up to provide new landscape strip, almost like a linear space that runs along Church Road to High Street North, providing a range of opportunities, including seating. Possible also a space across to the other side of Snowshill Road, where there's currently a sort of grassed area. This area can have additional planting, possibly seating, and also potentially some raised planters in there as part of a sort of grow your own area for surrounding residents as well. And then to the north, there's 2 spaces, and I know that James has been having discussions in terms of possible improvements to those spaces, and they sort of form a link through then into the courtyard so that we can start to link green spaces together. And the images to either side are just showing some of the ideas within the landscape, including enhancing the biodiversity and ecological value of the site, looking at meadows, looking at bird bat boxes on existing trees. And then on the right hand side shows some of the ideas for the play opportunities. So we'll be looking for sort of natural play elements, some equipment, and also making that sort of accessible for all children as well. And then along Snows Hill Road and sort of other building interfaces, we're looking at defensible planting. So sort of front garden strips with gates, with railings or low walls, and then with planting to sort of provide a sort of setting that is in keeping with the surrounding streetscapes, and also brings a green element into the streets as well. And I think the next slide is just, again, some of those images. So we'll be looking at green roofs as well. So that plan that we showed previously is at the ground floor level, and on various roof levels, we'd be looking at providing extensive green roofs, or possibly green-blue roofs as well, so that we're actually greening up roof areas where we can, given you know, limitations in terms of having to incorporate photovoltaic cells or plant. And then the next slide. The current idea is that the Snows Hill Passage would be stopped up, and that space, which is within the site boundary, would become part of the garden space. So that northern area would be a sort of quiet space for seating, for biodiversity, and would enhance the existing trees there. And then there would be improvements to the maisonettes to the north to provide a suitable link through between Snows Hill Road and High Street North. So we're currently developing ideas which basically works on that proposal. And I think I'm handing back to James.
Thanks, Mike. So following the presentation from the architects and the landscape architect, I'd just like to summarise some of the benefits of the proposals. So we're looking at around 80 new homes on the site. All the homes will be affordable, either at London Affordable Rent or through a shared ownership product. Newham Council is committed to delivering 39% family homes, and that's target at the moment. Looking at improving the active participation around the pavement, around the front of the High Street North, and really making a positive addition to that High Street. Newham has a commitment to the climate emergency, and the scheme will follow what's called low energy design around the principles of passive house, so a low energy building, which means that it's got low carbon footprint, and also means that it will help residents avoid fuel poverty throughout the lifetime in the new homes. Also looking at improved green space, as Mike has outlined there earlier, together with communal gardens. And also to further enhance the green credentials, the scheme will be a car-free development. That means that the homes will be advertised as car-free in the choice-based lettings website for new residents. And we'll also be looking at promoting social value all through our procurement routes. So that involves when we go out to seek a contractor to build the new homes, that they'll commit to localised employment and apprentice schemes and other such features to help boost the economy. We'll also be promoting sustainable travel through the use of bike stores for residents and for visitors as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of the timeline, this is the first consultation event we're holding regarding Greenhill. We hope to hold another event just before the planning application, which will be in early summer 2021, sometime around June. It's a rough sort of 3-month process for a planning application, and the application will be viewed like any other application made to the planning authority at Newham. During that time, we'll also start a procurement exercise. We'll be going out to a market looking for around 5 contractors to submit a price for building the scheme, plus also to respond to some quality questions around how they'll work with local residents to minimise disruption, how they'll work on our social value credentials, and various other aspects around fire safety and buildability. That will take us to winter 2021, when we hope the scheme will start on site. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, thanks all. We will head straight into questions, and I would just say to attendees, feel free to put your hand up or submit a question in the Q&A function, which somebody has already done. So we will immediately turn to that question. So James, this might be one for you to answer potentially. It says, hello, I assume the existing gym will be demolished to make space for the new development. When will this happen? And what are the timescales between demolition and the new gym being available to residents? Thank you.
Sure, that's fine. So we're looking at demolition around the autumn, around October 2021. That's so we can start looking at the site investigation on the ground and make sure that the contractor can build the scheme up. Our department and our contractor will be developing what we call a shell and core. So they'll provide the gym, the shell structure, and obviously the glazing and lift mechanisms and such. And then active Newham or people working with the leisure department at Newham Council will be coming in and doing the final fit out of all the equipment, lighting, signage and such like. We're hoping to get the shell and core completed on the gym as early as possible so that that final fit out process can start as soon as possible. And so that final fit out is concluded around the time the residents can move in. Currently, we're looking at around 2 years between demolition and closure and the gym being available for use again in the future. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't have any more questions in at the moment and no raised hands currently. So I've got a couple of questions just to put to you very quickly. And James, again, I think these are for you. Okay. How much is a London affordable rent?
That's a good question. It can be quite confusing. There's lots of different rent products out there in the market promoted by the GLA. So London affordable rent is it's about 50% less than the private rented sector. It's slightly more expensive, but not by much, than a social rented council property. So a 1-bedroom flat is around £161 per week. A 2-bedroom flat is £171 a week. And one of the 3-bedroom homes on site will be £180 a week for new residents.
Got you. And just another quick follow-up question. You mentioned intermediate housing. What does intermediate housing refer to? So, I mean, that will be, I suppose, the shared ownership product that we're looking at delivering on site. So, which will be about 30% of the new homes. So that's still a housing product with some form of support from government, and we'll be marketing those schemes on the basis of the current market climate in the next year or so. Great. And one of the questions we've had come through is, will all the houses become maisonettes again? Maybe Laura, you might want to come in terms of that particular question, but James equally, or Harriet, whoever wants to come in, feel free.
Yes, I could answer that. So at the moment, our kind of initial sketch is showing maisonettes at ground floor level, as we think that's nicer, getting bedrooms off ground floor level, giving those residents a little bit more privacy. But then above first floor level, it will all be flats. Great. If that answers the question.
I think so. And if that individual wants to submit another question or put their hand up, they are more than welcome to. Just to touch quickly on car-free development, why has the council chosen a car-free development for this particular site, and how do they ensure that the development is actually car-free? Okay, so it's a planning policy commitment in Newham and other London boroughs to ensure that other more environmentally friendly modes of transport are considered in the first instance, and the fact that the site is quite near other transport links in planning terms means that we don't need to provide on-site parking other than the wheelchair parking as previously alluded to on earlier slides. So that does protect the existing residents in the local area. There shouldn't be an impact on them in terms of new residents moving onto the site. When we do complete the homes, people who do want to move into them, council tends to move into them, they bid or apply for new council homes. So it's called choice-based lettings. It's like a magazine online that shows the homes available. And from that point onwards, all the way through to when they sign a tenancy agreement, it'll be made clear to them that they will not be allowed to apply for a parking permit.
And if they did obviously have a vehicle, a number of vehicles, then we would probably suggest that they applied for other properties in Newham where parking was available. When the scheme does hand over, there will be an increase in foot patrols, maintaining parking controls and ensuring that residents don't, if they have come on site and do start parking, that action will be taken quite quickly to ensure that that's controlled in the first instance and not become habitual.
Okay, thank you. And I've just got another question. It might be one that Kate, who I erroneously said was from First Base, who's actually from First Plan. Apologies, Kate, my bad, that one. How are you defining a family home? I think you mentioned in the presentation it was 39% of the accommodation is going to be for family homes. How does that get defined?
That's 3 bedrooms or more, essentially. But I think most of our family homes will be 3-bedroom units.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'm going to give it, I'll count down to 5 just to see if there are any other questions or any other hands raised. Otherwise, we will start to bring things to a conclusion. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just a final question for you, James. Will there be future consultation events? How are you intending to stay in touch with local residents?
Thanks, Oliver, and yes, thank you for attending this evening's event. This is the first of 2 events. Obviously, if we any further feedback people want to give, we'll certainly take that back as a design team and look at how we can adopt those changes to the scheme. But we'll be keeping using the Newham Co-Create website. I will also be looking at issuing a questionnaire to attendees via email in the next few days, and you have my contact details as well. So it's very much a two-way process in terms of engagement. As I said, we will be holding another event in advance of planning submission, which you will be invited to. Once planning is submitted, there will be a formal consultation process, not led by myself, but led by the planning department. And obviously, if the scheme does get planning and can start on site, there will be a meet the contractor event in the future, which is an opportunity for local residents to meet the team who will be delivering the scheme and answer any specific questions residents may have about that side of the process.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we will draw things to a conclusion there. Thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you to everybody who has attended this evening, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.